Om Tavakatamritam Tapta Jivanam Kavipiriditam Kalmashapaham Shravanamangalam Srimadatam Bhuvignanti Ye Burita Jana. The Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. We've opened the book on Monday, December 24th, 1883. This is in the chapter M at Dakshineshwar. At 8 o'clock in the morning, Sri Ramakrishna and M. M is the recorder of the Gospel. So, were talking together in the pine grove at the northern end of the temple garden. This pine grove, of course, no longer exists, but when the temple was newly constructed, that was more like a kind of a dense area of vegetation and trees. Now, you go there, you don't find any pine groves. You find manicured lawns and people around there all over the place. In those days, it was extremely isolated and cut off from everything. This was the 11th day of M's stay with the Master. It was winter. The sun had just risen. The river was flowing north with the tide. It may sound kind of, what's north and south? And the Ganga there flows both ways, towards the north and towards the south. When the tide from the sea comes in from the Bay of Bengal, it pushes that water, and that water kind of runs up. And then during low tide, the river water once again flows down to the Bay of Bengal, the sea. Yeah, it kind of also reminds us of what the commentator in the Yoga Sutra has spoken about. In one place, the commentator is a Vyasa, in his commentary on the Yoga Sutras, speaks about Mano Nama Nadhya Ubhaya Yata Vahini. The mind is like a river which flows two ways. One, it flows towards auspiciousness and the final goal, and the other opposite side is it flows downwards towards worldly existence. So there are some rivers that have these reverse currents. So that's why we say the river was flowing north with the tide. Not far off could be seen the Bale tree, that's a Bilva tree, where the Master had practiced great spiritual austerities. The descendant of that tree still exists in a way, and it is now in a small enclosure. It was in that place, deep in that kind of forested area of the temple complex, where Sri Ramakrishna had practiced with great spiritual disciplines. He had also installed the seat, that is the asana of the Panchamundi, which is kind of auspicious, which is recommended rather in the Tantras. We won't go into that now, but later on, after he finishes the practices, he breaks that asana and throws the 5 skulls that are supposed to be buried under that seat, throws it into the Ganga. But even today, if one goes in that enclosure. Many people don't really go there and don't really know. It has a wonderful, wonderful atmosphere. There's a small kind of shrine now there, present. Sri Ramakrishna faced the east as he talked to his disciple and told him about the knowledge of Brahman. So here it's morning and it's facing the east. The sun is rising and is dispelling that cold. Now facing the east, that is facing away from the Ganga, looking towards the east. Master, quote, "The formless God is real, and equally real is God with form. Nangta, that is, in India, there is a tradition never to utter the Guru's name. My Guru so and so. Now it's become a kind of my Guru so and so. You never utter it. They used to call Nangta, that is the naked one. He used to almost be naked in heat and cold, and he was a monk of the highest class. And there are these monks even still now in India. So Nangta used to instruct me, he's saying, about the nature of Satyamayananda Brahman. So the Guru used to instruct Sri Ramakrishna, who learned the practices of Advaita Vedanta under his Guru. Now that we know his name was Totapuri. Why don't they utter the name of the Guru? It's kind of a deference, it's kind of a respect. So even in India in the old days, the wife never used to kind of utter the name of a husband or something like that. Or the husband used to call his wife by name. Yeah, kind of a respect there. So Nangta used to, we'll take the formless God is real, and equally real is God with form. That has put a lot of people in a lot of trouble, philosophically. People say, well, if the formless God is real, God with form should be unreal. You cannot have two realities. Have one, but here it is clear the formless God is real and the God with form also is real. He will explain this. Because what happens is there are religions who only take the formless aspect of reality and kind of denigrate God with forms, etc., etc. Oh, what's that? There are some who take the God with form aspect and dismiss the formless God. What's that? Is there something kind of like that, formless God? It's tasteless, soundless, beyond everything. And can reality ever be understood if it is formless, if it is beyond name and form and everything? What's that? What kind of reality is that? They take God with form. Yeah. It might be a personal God or it might be a universal God. Either way. But here Sri Ramakrishna said the God with form is real. The formless God is real, and equally real is God with form. So Sri Ramakrishna continues, he, that is his Guru, Totapuri, used to say that it is like an infinite ocean, water everywhere, to the right, to the left, above, and below. Water enveloped in water. It is the water of that great cause, Mahakarana, as they say, motionless. Waves spring up when it becomes active. Its activities are creation, preservation, and destruction. Here it is. Huh. Is it water? It's not. It's not water. It's the waters of the great cause. Even in the Bible, you have the beginning as the spirit of the God moved on the waters. Even in some of these old Rig Vedic passages, you find creation coming out of the waters. Waters? What's of water? Later on, we had ocean of milk. Maybe that could be better.
Milk white.
Milk white. But you see, what happens is they're using the analogy of water. Water to the left, water to the right, water above, water below, water everywhere, water within water. Hell, where does the water remain? So it has to have a container. Something has to be contained in a container. If there's water, there has to be something that holds up the water. Then you'll say, what is that? It's water. And what holds that second water? The water. What's water? You see, what happens is people have been trying to search for extraterrestrial life everywhere. There's a huge kind of interest. And all the scientists, all the astrobiologists, everyone, they say, we must search for a place where there is water. And if you find water, you will definitely find there is life. And it is always, this earth is now full of life because of water. The first life arose from the seas, the oceans, from water. And so, water? So it is called the great cause, the Mahakarana. Water has no form, as it were. It has tremendous properties, kind of. Still, we can't really understand all the secrets of water. So water has always been a kind of a symbol of rejuvenation, regeneration, and life, and progeny, and this and that, and the works. Even a child who's going to be born in the mother's womb, he's in the amniotic fluid, in water. Everywhere there's water, water, water. So when he says, Nangta used to instruct him, that is, his guru used to instruct him. It's like an infinite ocean. Now see, the infinite ocean, it's an ocean. Water everywhere, to the right, left, above, below. Imagine an infinite ocean. There are no boundaries at all. Just water and water and water and water everywhere. Then say water enveloped in water. Then he explained, it is the water of the great cause. The great Maha cause Karan. Cause of what? The cause of creation, preservation, destruction. How? Some waves arises on it. And this wave rises on this. How big is the wave? You can make the wave as big as you want. It doesn't even matter. Creation is a kind of small thing in this vast infinite ocean of the great cause. So if you can look at it as Prakriti, as nature, infinite, and in that there's a kind of a wave that's rising in that infinite expanse of water. Whenever you say an ocean, yeah, then you say there's the sky also. Remove the sky, because here it says the water above, water below, water right and water. Everywhere it's water, water. When you dive down in the water, you know, you're floating in the water. You see water above, water below, water everywhere, everywhere is water. So the great cause is symbolically explained as that water and water and water everywhere. This is what it means. So this is how his guru Totapur used to instruct him. Continue. It is the water of the great cause, motionless. There it's motionless. Anidvatam Swadaya. That is in the Rig Veda and the hymn of creation. It vibrated without vibration. Anidvatam, without vibration. So there, in the Rig Veda we have that hymn of creation, which Swami Vivekananda also had translated. It's called Na Sadiya Sukta. Beautiful hymn. There was neither existence nor non-existence. Sada Satna Asid. And I think you need to kind of reference that. It's a beautiful hymn. He says, it is the water of the great cause, motionless. So what happens is, when his guru is instructing Sri Ramakrishna, his disciple, as with these kind of words, motionless waters, it exactly tallies with what the scriptures speak about. That's why the words of Sri Ramakrishna, the words in the gospel, are likened to a scripture. They are a scripture for the sage. And they do not contradict the ancient scriptures anyway. So waves spring up when it becomes active. There it is. So waves spring up when they're active. Its activity is a creation, preservation, and destruction. These waves are constant. There's creation, preservation, destruction going on the micro scale. On the smaller scale, there's constantly this going. And on the macro scale also we see there's creation, preservation, destruction going on. It's a huge kind of process. The full implications are just beyond any kind of human concepts. This is what keeps everything alive. Again, Sri Ramakrishna continues. He used to say, his guru, Totapuri, used to say, that Brahman is where reason comes to a stop. There. Comes to a stop? Yes. Because reason can go only so much far. Reason can work where there is data coming in from to the senses. And if there is no information coming in, how does the reasoning faculty or the intellect function? It's just impossible. So what is reason? It compares one thing with another. It networks one thing with the other. And when you don't have anything coming in, then your reasoning stops. Reasoning is like Swami Vivekananda, it's a very weak instrument. It has limited, you can say, reach to understand things. It is definitely useful in understanding the Vyavharika, the phenomenal. But when it comes to the Paramarthika, that Paramarthika is, as you say, to understand the absolute or something which is beyond the phenomenal world of the senses, which can be grasped, reason simply stops, is disabled. That's why you say, he used to say that Brahman is where reason comes to a stop. Brahman? Brahman, why can't we kind of realize Brahman through our logic? No, you can't. That's what I think. So, the Vedas say, avang manasa gochara, yato vacho nivartante aprapya manasasa. Where the speech and the mind recoil, not being able to reach it. For the simple reason is, Brahman is beyond the speech, the sensory apparatus, as well as the mind. So if Brahman is beyond the mind, how do we know it? Yeah. You know it because that's real existence. That is the real knower. So you cannot understand Brahman through the mind. When the mind stops, then you can realize Brahman. And does the mind ever stop? It's constantly whirling about and moving about and running about, and yeah, that is its fuel. You take the fuel out, and then the mind fizzles out. And when the mind fizzles out, we will realize that Brahman. How does it fizzle out? Yeah, all the sense data that's coming in is stopped. All the impressions from the mind, subconscious mind which come out, that is stopped. And then the mind vibrates without vibration. It's without movement. Like the first cause of this universe, water and water and water. It is the great cause is motionless. There comes a time in the life of a spiritual aspirant when that mind becomes motionless. And when it becomes motionless, there is a realization of Brahman as Brahman. Then Sri Ramakrishna explained, there is the instance of camphor. Nothing remains after it is burnt, not even a trace of ash. Yeah, we know. You burn camphor. Or even you don't have to burn camphor. When we do this, wave the lamps, for the puja, what do we put there, on the wicks, cotton wicks? It's camphor. Burn it, and then it's called sublimation. It's straight from one state, from the solid state, disappears, goes up. It doesn't go to the liquid state and all that. So even if you don't burn it, you just keep it out, expose it to the elements, to the air, it will slowly disappear. That's the nature of camphor. And that is what is the illustration given here by Totapuri's teacher to Sri Ramakrishna. So, reasoning and the mind, if the reasoning stops, that is the mind stops, okay? Say, the reasoning stops. What do you mean reasoning stops? How do the mind stops? When you go to sleep, the reasoning stops. Yeah, but there that mind goes into its kind of its own darkness. And there also it doesn't really stop. Because if it were stopped, you would not be able to awake the next morning. So it's there. There is a movement. A wave runs across the surface of the mind. Wave of tamas that keeps the mind alive in its darkness. He continues, Brahman is beyond mind and speech. There it is. What is Brahman? Brahman. Is he or she or some kind of... It's a reality. That reality is beyond mind and speech. So how do you realize it? Well, stop your mind and stop your speech. That's the only way.
In that order?
No, in the reverse order. First stop the speech and then stop the mind. And then... Because the whole of the Yoga Sutras is nothing but trying to stop the mind from breaking into waves. Chitta Vritti Nirodha. But can the mind be ever still? Well, there is a kind of a river that's running down for hundreds of years. Now you suddenly decide to kind of slow down the speed of the river. What do? You throw in earth. Use great big earth movers and keep on throwing this earth in the river, and then slowly the currents are slowed down. Okay? And as you can keep on slowing it down, the river as it was stops. So similarly, when we try to practice spiritual disciplines, the spiritual disciplines is just to make the mind flow a little slowly. And how do we know that the mind is now slow? Well, your breath becomes shallow and slow. And when your breath becomes shallow and slow, your body becomes still. And when your body becomes still, all the functions inside, they also become still. So then you will know the mind's wild gyrations have kind of slowed down. And in that higher state then, where everything stops, that is called samadhi. There it is. Finally. Not bad. So we come. So the another illustration given in the Bhagavad Gita is like a lamp placed in a windless place. The flame burns steadily. It's not whipped about by any kind of air or air currents. So this is the illustration for a yogi's mind, where the mind becomes still. There is no wind of desire, or there is nothing to make the flame flicker. It is still. That's why he's saying, Yata Deepo Nivataste Nengate Somapasmita. That is the upama, that is the comparison of a still mind. So if you want to make the mind still, there it is. So why is a flame? Yes, because there is illumination. You still the mind, that mind is, its illumination kind of is at its maximum. So if you keep a flame or a candle out in the breeze, you see what happens. So Brahman is beyond mind and speech. So Brahman transcends mind and speech. Simple as that. Your mind and your speech? Yes, when it transcends your mind and your speech, in reference to the body, it is called the Atman. In reference to all the bodies and all the minds, it is called Brahman. That's why they say this Atman is Brahman. He gives another example. A salt doll entered the ocean to measure its depths. But it did not return to tell others how deep the ocean was. It melted in the ocean itself. So people want to have samadhi, and people claim to have samadhis also. It's very good, nice, it's wonderful. We all should have samadhis. But the problem, those guys who experience samadhis come out the same way that they are. What happened? Something happened. When you go into samadhi, it's like a salt doll diving down into the ocean depths to measure how deep it is. And then what happens is you melt away. Your individuality melts away. You are not the old person who went into samadhi. Sorry. Well, really? Yeah, we are very sorry about that. Samadhi entails you should die before you enter samadhi. Oh, I don't want to die. You will not get samadhi. But why is the death? Death of that delusive individuality. That needs to die. And that must die. Otherwise, there is no realization. Oh, why, what rubbish is this? What kind of rubbish doctrine is this? This is actually, we are speaking from the highest standpoint. See? So, from that standpoint, an individual stops his body and mind, dies, gets into samadhi, melts away, and then what happens? That person has become the ocean. That doll has become the ocean. Actually, it's a salt doll that we are talking about, has actually emerged from that ocean itself. Salt is extracted from the ocean. And then it goes back to the ocean and becomes the ocean itself. Why all this brouhaha in the middle? Where are we? Why should we? What about me and what about who? Why you have to bother about yourself? The reality is vast. So you have emerged from that reality. You go back to that reality. You become one with that reality. But what about my individuality? Well, your individuality was a kind of wrought or made up by your own kind of delusions, your limitations. This is what is called Maya. It makes the infinite finite, and we keep on believing we are finite. We are going to be born, we are going to die. There is no birth and there is no death for this reality. So that salt doll went to measure the depths of the ocean, and what happened was it melted away. So here Sri Ramakrishna takes up another kind of link in this argument. The rishis, as we know, are called sages. They are actually the seers of the mantras, Vedic mantras. They are called rishis. They are the one who are Krantadarshi, one who know the past, present, and future. They are like omniscient beings. These are the rishis, the great sages. Once said to Rama, as you know, was the incarnation. Quote, "O Rama, sages like rishis like Bharadwaja." Bharadwaja was a very great sage. He is also found in a lot of Vedic literature. May very well call you an incarnation of God, an avatar. Like there was sage Bharadwaj, who called Rama as an incarnation. But we cannot do that. We adore the word Brahman. We do not want the human form of God. Rama smiled and went away, pleased with their adoration. There. Word Brahman, Shabda Brahman. Brahman manifested as sound. Sound has no kind of form. So here Sri Ramakrishna started the discussion with the reality. God with form is real, and God without form also is real. So here he kind of ties down both the topics. The rishis say to Rama, sages like Bharadwaja, they acknowledge you as an incarnation of God. That's their point of view. That's perfectly okay. They are not wrong. But we have worshipped the Shabda Brahman, word Brahman. We do not want the human form of God. Rama, being an incarnation of God, smiled and went away, pleased with their adoration. This is one thing that we need to also kind of take note. For centuries, the philosophers of Advaita and Vishishta Advaita and Dvaita, that is, philosophers of non-dualism, qualified non-dualism and dualism, and rest of the other systems of philosophy, have been disputing amongst themselves. We are real. This viewpoint is the best, and it's comprehensive, and it is more real than what you are trying to present. And the dualists have been pushing that, no, this is what we know, this is what is real. That Advaita and all that thing is not good enough. And there has been disputations and disputations and disputations. With the advent of Sri Ramakrishna is saying, yeah, you don't have to fight, because these are the stages in spiritual evolution. So when the discussion started with God with form is real and God without form also is real. Yeah, leave everybody to their own spiritual practices. If somebody believes in God with form, let them believe it. Who are you to go and dispute them? Oh, that's all wrong. That also is real, as Sri Ramakrishna says. And those who want to believe in God without form, believe in that. That also is real. So Sri Ramakrishna says, as many paths, as many opinions, so many paths to the goal. If your inclination or your orientation is towards God, worshipping God with form, go ahead. And then you go higher and higher and higher levels, you will understand yourself. First, somehow realize what you are believing in, instead of disputing whether this is real or that is real. Both are real. God with form and God without form. So Rama, being an incarnation, he smiled. Yeah. They were the practitioners of Advaita, the Dvaita. And Bharadwaj and all these sages, they accepted incarnation of God as a kind of God. Can God descend? There are some people, philosophers, who don't accept that incarnation. Oh, why? How can that which is formless take a form? And we will find these questions answered in this very book, the Gospel. How the infinite can and does appear embodied, human embodiment. So Rama knows the whole secret. He smiles and goes. They are They are the two aspects of one reality, the formless and that with form. At one point of time, as we have seen, the salt, like the salt all which goes to measure that ocean, melts in it. At one point of time, you will understand reality as it is. It is both with form and without form. Now, he continues, but the Nitya and the Leela are two aspects of the same reality. Here it is. Nitya is the eternal, Leela is creation, preservation, destruction. They are the two aspects of that one reality. It is water that has kind of risen in waves, which is appearing in creation, preservation, destruction. What is there in the wave? Rocks? No, you cannot have rocks. It's all water, water, water everywhere. And so you have the water which is still and motionless in the ocean of the great cause, a ripple or a wave rising. And that as that ripple moves, there's creation, preservation, destruction. So the reality of creation and preservation and destruction is in that water itself. It is not separate. So the formed and the formless aspect of God are one. The forms are in the formless is in the form. And this has been tremendous, you can say. We don't really realize, but we have actually two perceptions. One is the concrete, another is abstract. Yeah. Take one example Swami Vivekananda gives. You draw a circle and look at the space within that circumference of the circle and think about it, and at the same time you can think of the space outside the circle. This thing comes automatically. It's part of that cognition. When you think of one black cow, you know all the cows in the universe. You can differentiate between a black cow and a red cow and a brown cow or a blue cow, whatever. You see one thing, you know everything about. You see one horse, you know all the horses in the universe. You see one tree. First you may, what's that? It's called a tree. Oh, really? It's a tree. Oh, my God. Next time you see a tree, you're not going to ask, what is this? You know it's a tree. It looks a little different. Yeah, that's a mango tree. This is a coconut tree. That's all. But you know it's a tree. So knowledge is particular as well as general. It flashes. Both aspects flash. The formless flashes as well as the formed flash in your consciousness. So you know, as the Vedas say, you know one lump of clay, you know all that's made of clay in the universe. You know one atom, you know all the atoms in the universe. Yeah. If you, like Sri Ramakrishna said, press one grain of rice which is being boiled, and then you know whether all the rice is boiled or no. You don't need to go on pressing each grain of rice. You open the cooker, let's press every grain of rice. No. Just press one grain and you'll understand whether the rice is cooked or not. So knowledge of one simultaneously gives the knowledge of the vast, the universal. So there are always two aspects in our cognition. Always. We take one aspect of the cognition and say, this is only right and this is, while we neglect the other side. So this world appears to us, and yet at the same time we know there is something beyond the world. We experience life. At the same time, we know there is something beyond life. Yeah, that's why that fear of death is there. At the same time, there is a belief that you will live after you die. People have not understood that they will make heavens and hells and all these things. But what we are trying to get is, there's something that you will not die, you will not perish, you will not cease to exist. Similarly, everything in this universe, all knowledge is a combination of these two, the formed and the formless. Brahman has two forms, forms and the formless. Dve vava brahmano rupi. There it is. So, our bodies and our minds equally partake of this reality. Don't get frightened about it. We feel small and feel perishable and we feel so mortal. At the same time, we feel the opposite also. We feel immortal. We feel great. When you look at this vast universe, wow, how vast is this universe? But yet you feel your mind is even vaster than this universe. Why? Because it can comprehend this universe. So here we are. We are a curious blend of reality. The Nitya and the Leela. The eternal and the eternal in constant sport. Sense of your individuality can exist only in the larger picture of a larger reality. You can't exist on your own in your own room forever and ever and say, this is me, this is the universe, and this is my existence. You will have to play out your individuality on the football field. Go out and play a football and see what it is. Just sitting down with the football in your room and say, I play football, I like football, that will not do. Go out and then we know how good you are at football. So you need a larger field to identify you, for you also to understand yourself. That larger field is that aspect of yours which is formless. So, you see what happens is, again, let's come down to water. Water is without form, yet it takes the form of the container in which it is. So there's an aspect of you which is like water, which is like now filled up in this body of a container. And this thing feels, oh my God, I'm here contained. But a part of you knows, I cannot be contained. We stop here for now. These, fortunately, we got some nice passages today, kind of quite deep. Like every word can take actually hours to explain. You know? Wonderful.
Next class you can do one word.
Yeah, just in fact, take one. Brahman is beyond mind and speech. Brahman, yeah, okay. Yeah, Brahman. Yeah. And beyond mind and speech. Okay. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.